Houston, USF, absolutely. Absolutely, those jobs are more in Lane Kiffin's wheelhouse right now. And we'll see how they play out. A lot of good coaches out there looking for head coaching jobs, though. He probably could use another domino or two to fall. You know, there's that sort of buffer for Lane Kiffin. USF, Houston, okay. They're not Power 5 jobs, but they're high enough in the pecking order. When you look at the group of 5 jobs out there, that absolutely you give those jobs consideration. But then when you get to the FIUs and the Florida Atlantics, well, no. You're better off just staying a coordinator. Probably because USF and Houston can pay you enough to make it worth your while. And they're very much winnable type situations. You can win big at USF. It's been done before. I mean, we've seen USF in some previous years rise to what, top 3, top 4 in the country? Seems like 100 years ago. But you had USF, Louisville, West Virginia there in that same time frame. Top 3, top 5 type teams. So it can be done at USF. We've seen that it can be done at Houston under Tom Herman. Kevin Sumlin had a lot of success at Houston. So those are plum jobs. But you don't want to go much lower than that if you're Lane Kiffin. And especially if you're Jeremy Pruitt. If you're Jeremy Pruitt right now, the model that you're following is Kirby Smart. You are in absolutely no hurry. You know, when Kirby was here, jobs like Arkansas State, Southern Miss would open up, and you'd invariably hear fans, oh, well, Kirby needs to look into that job. That's probably where Kirby's headed. No, Kirby was never headed to one of those jobs. Why would he? The money has reached the point at the coordinator level, especially, that a lot of these places can't pay you enough to get you to leave a coordinator spot at a place like Alabama. It used to be that money-wise, you had to take those jobs if you were a coordinator. It was such a boost in your salary. No more. It's not like that at all. I mean, we're closing in on the $2 million a year coordinator. Sooner rather than later. I'm pretty sure USM doesn't pay its head coach $2 million a year. Not sure they pay him $1 million. So you're not going to see guys jump on those kind of jobs. Now, USF, again, in Houston, different. They are pseudo Power 5 jobs. May as well be Power 5 jobs. Both come with issues, but both come with the potential for far greater reward than they are risk. You go to USM, you go to FAU, track record tells you of those jobs that may not end so well. Whereas Houston, you're seeing the last couple of 3 guys go from Houston to Texas A&M, Houston to the University of Texas. At USF, you're seeing Willie Taggart go on to the University of Oregon. Doesn't take a lot of homework to figure it out. Now, yes, Larry Fedora went from Southern Mississippi to the University of North Carolina. That's a nice step up, but that's not A&M. And that's not Texas. And I would say it's not even Oregon. Although Fedora has done a pretty nice job the last couple of years, especially since Gene Chizik came on as his defensive coordinator. So where does the Lane train go from here? Very interesting. USF, again, would seem to be a very nice fit for Lane Kiffin. But there will be competition. Lord, yes, we got to get some of that competition. Charlie Strong mentioned with that USF job. Strong candidate. Greg Schiano linked to that USF opening already. I mentioned Pruitt, Lincoln Riley. So the slam dunk that it once was for jobs like this, for elite coordinators like Lane Kiffin, even coordinators like Kiffin who have a track record that includes stops at the University of Tennessee, Southern California, and the Oakland Raiders as a head coach. Not such a certainty anymore. Guys are in search of jobs. The turnover has reached the point where guys that used to be in jobs for 7, 8, 10 years, they're back on the market in 3 or 4, like Charlie Strong. And Charlie Strong would be a very good fit at USF. So would Greg Schiano. He has ties to the state, having worked at Miami, recruited that state heavily while he was the head coach at Rutgers. Another guy who has a background like Strong of taking a program of similar stature like USF and making it a national power. Schiano did it at Rutgers. So there you go. Some list of candidates as USF opens now, including Lane Kiffin and defensive coordinator Jeremy Pruitt mentioned with that job. Obviously, Kiffin of the two, the one most expect to be heavily in the mix down in Tampa. And you're going to hear ties between Lane Kiffin and USF in the Tampa area. I think it starts with his ex-in-laws. Former Florida quarterback John Reeves is Lane's ex-father-in-law. Interestingly enough, David Reeves, the associate head coach at USF right now, Lane's ex-brother-in-law. I believe Reeves worked with him at Tennessee for that 1 year that Lane headed up the Vols program in 2009. So the web is far-reaching when you talk about the coaching ranks. And it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out down in Tampa, out in Houston, and still up in Cincinnati. Those kind of jobs are the jobs that you would sort of push for if you're Charlie Strong, if you're Greg Schiano, if you're Lane Kiffin. Those are the 3 guys that you're going to continue to hear in the mix with these kind of jobs. And there's always LSU still, I think, for Lane, if it comes down to it in the end. And that's where it could get really interesting. The head coach in the SEC right now is holding his breath the most in relation to Lane Kiffin. Isn't Nick Saban. It's Ed Orgeron. Because we all know Ed sold his candidacy, ran his candidacy for the permanent head job at LSU based largely on his belief that he could bring Lane Kiffin to LSU as his offensive coordinator. So I don't think it's Nick Saban right now who is holding his breath and is concerned about Lane Kiffin in terms of the big picture. Maybe in terms of keeping his staff together through the playoff, Nick Saban is interested in what happens with Lane coming up here. But for 2017 and beyond, it's Ed Orgeron with the most to lose right now. Because if not Lane, who for that LSU offense? They'll get the checkbook out and they'll be able to attract some viable candidates, no doubt. But there's no question that Ed sold, again, his candidacy, ran his candidacy on a Orgeron-Kiffin ticket. Orgeron-Kiffin in 2016, or 2017, I guess it really is. But it is Ed Orgeron with the most to lose right now in relation to Lane Kiffin's head coaching prospects for 2017.